Welcome back to Guitar Solo Dojo. Jason Moore here. I'm going to break down, I don't know, not so much break it down, but explain why I think that Drop Dead Legs could be one of the coolest Van Halen riffs ever written. Could be one of the coolest riffs ever written, period. There were a lot of great riffs that came out of the 80s, and people ask me often, what are some of your favorites? There's a few that always stick out in my mind. There's Drop Dead Legs, of course. There's a... that lick from Round and Round, or the riff from Round and Round, Lay It Down. Also an incredible riff. Of course, like Back in Black, there's a few of them. But Drop Dead Legs is one that's always top on my list because, number one, for a long time, every transcription got it wrong. Now, the cat's sort of out of the bag now because there's been plenty of videos circulating around of Eddie actually playing it, and you can see the positioning of it. And of course, I'm playing this on a Telecaster, which you're thinking, don't ever play Eddie on a Telecaster, but it actually gets a pretty good Eddie Van Halen tone because it's pretty thin sound. It kind of matches some of his tones a little bit better than some. So, one of the big keys, of course, as you probably know, if you're watching this video, is there's no whammy involved in that main riff. We got this really cool thing. That first right there, he's hitting this D in 3 different ways. We've got, there's way number 1, there's way number 2, and then he slides up to it for the 3rd way. So that right there says it all. It's really, really cool. And some of the old transcriptions, you probably would realize that it would just go maybe, then have a whammy bar dip for both of those. And I tried that, and of course that didn't sound quite right because it wasn't right. So we've got this riff down to that little C add 9 there. Also, just super gritty, dirty, and awesome sounding. Now here's another part that some people play wrong. They tend to play it like this. They just play like a basic, normal sort of G over B kind of thing. But watching him live, he grabs it like that. Okay. And the other thing that I do on this that I normally wouldn't do, I tell people not to play rhythm with the guitar, like all these excessive mutes. But when you listen to the isolated track, he's actually doing that sort of on the beat. So he's going... And you hear all these extra little chugs in there. So that's normally something I wouldn't recommend doing, but in this case, it actually fits because that's what he did. And I think I bypassed that whole intro, which I want to get back to right now. So the very intro, there's another part. There's no real reference for timing until that little cowbell thing comes in, and that actually messes most people up, including myself, more than anything else, because we don't really hear where a clear downbeat is at, right? So some things to keep in mind is he always hits his chord, and then the next little run doesn't start on the downbeat. It starts on the E of 2, so it's 1, 2. That right there could probably save you some trouble. Same thing on the next phrase. It's starting on the E, so 1, 2. And then he's also leading into the chord again. There's another note that's on a 16th on the of beat number 3 right here where he goes. This right here. That's on the E of 3, which is important because it's repeated that phrase from before where he goes. Now, when he gets into this the 3rd time, right before that volume swell, that note leading into the A right there is on an and instead, so it sounds like this. So it almost sounds like it was rushed, because we get used to hearing this. This kind of feel where you have that 16th note, but there it's on an and, so it's on just the and of 3. And the volume swell. Then into the heaviness, which makes that riff so awesome. Now, one other part I want to touch on that, we could cover the whole thing, but that's for another day. The really cool breakdown after that first chorus. So, key there. It's perfectly timed, but the hard part is this. Those are just quarter note triplets. So we got 2 quarter note triplets, which just fills up the whole measure. Right? So that's also can save you if you're trying to get the timing of that down. Also hard to understand what exactly is going on there because there's no percussion going on except for that really cool drum fill that comes in leading you back into this. Anyway. Of note, you will see a transcription where you'll see this, where he does this here. And he might have done that in the studio, I'm not sure, but watching the live videos, he's definitely playing it up here. Anyway, I don't know if I explained exactly why that could be the coolest riff ever written, but I still think it's the coolest riff ever written. Have fun.